Welcome to the Christian Budget Mom channel with Heather Oynes. Heather is a Jesus follower, wife, mom, and money coach passionate about budgeting biblically. Can you imagine how it would feel to go from feeling stressed about money to finally having peace around your finances? That's exactly what Heather teaches here on the channel and more in depth in her free De-Stress Your Money private podcast, only available at destressyourmoney.com. The podcast will walk you through how to manage your money God's way instead of the world's, help you create a practical plan for reaching your goals, and show you how to live that plan so that it becomes a natural part of your daily life. Again, you have to go to destressyourmoney.com or find the link below to get the podcast delivered right to your inbox. Now, let's get ready for some great advice from Heather on Christian financial stewardship.
So I have a visual for those of you who especially feel that budgeting is scary, and you might have seen this before, but I think it's a good refresher. Or if this is brand new to you, I really hope that this helps take the fear and the anxiety and the stress out of writing your numbers down and planning ahead for where that money's going. I hope this visual will help you with that. So this is the house model for biblical budgeting. God gave me this visual, several years ago. Very first, and what you want to do is think about like if we were building a house, okay? If we were actually building a house, we're going to build our budget based on how we build this house, okay? Very simple building, okay? I'm not a contractor here. We're very simple so everybody can understand it. So first, we're going to cover it in prayer, and we're going to let it be guided by his word. So before you even sit down to start on your budget, whether you're doing it on a spreadsheet, whether you're doing it with paper and pen, whether you're using an app, whatever it may be, before you even start, ask the Lord to help you. Ask the Lord to guide you. Cover it in prayer. Ask the Holy Spirit to work through it with you to take out the anxiety, the tension, the fear, whatever it may be for you, the overwhelm, right? Cover it in prayer and allow it to be guided by his word. Then the next thing I want you to think about, we're going to start at the foundation. So the foundation of managing money is that God actually owns it all. It's not our money. It's his money. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, right? It's his money. He is giving us a portion of his money to manage. So when we come at it from that foundation that he owns it and he is giving it to us as our Father, and he's giving it to us as his children, right? It is such a blessing, right? So when that income comes in, usually God's provision is not always income. And I really want y'all to start wrapping your minds around that too. For example, when Nicole's car broke down, somebody could have just given her another car. That wouldn't have been actual money that exchanged hands, but that would have been God's provision to their family, right? And I'm going to give you some more examples of that later, but I want y'all to start thinking about the fact that God's provision is not just money. But for budgeting purposes, we are going to talk about just the money part, right? So your income comes in, that's God's provision to you. And you can think about that as like the floor of the house. Okay. God owns it all. He's giving you a portion of his wealth as your income that's coming in. This is the floor of the house. And now we're going to build the house from the ground up. So the very first thing that I believe the Bible shares, especially in the Old Testament, yes, it's controversial. Are we still required to abide by the Old Testament law of tithing? Multiple opinions on that, but if you feel convicted at all to tithe or at least to give, even if you're not going to tithe the full 10%, but you want to give something, giving comes off the top, okay? So off the top, income comes in, give it to wherever you're convicted to give it to, your church, missionaries, organizations, whatever it is, off the top. That's the first wall of the house that's coming up, okay? And as I talk through this, I want you to think about what this looks like if you can literally write your income. We're building the house from the ground up, but probably you would do this backwards if you're writing it out, right? So you write your income at the top, right underneath that goes your giving, okay? And then you can subtract that off, and that's what's left. Okay, the second wall of the house is your savings. So we talked about short-term savings. That includes your starter emergency fund, which you all have written down your number by now, right? So that's exciting. You have your number, you know where you're headed. And then also your short-term savings or sinking funds, which are those things that you know you need to have in the very near future, a month, 2, 3 months down the road? Like, what is just like, you're pretty sure, or you, like Katie said, she knows her tires need replaced. Nicole says a new car's coming. I don't know when the babies do, but you have a few months to save for that, right? So that's probably something y'all need to put in the budget for now. So you put your starter emergency fund, and then you put your short-term savings goals there. Okay. Y'all think about how much peace that's going to give you when you have those things in place, right? Yes, maybe you had to slow down your debt payoff. You weren't pay, you don't get to pay extra on it for a few months while you build these things up. Hopefully just a short time. Like, I really encourage my clients to get this done very quickly. Okay. And we'll talk more about that at the end, but think about if you had this in place, how much peace there would be around this. Katie, think about when you go in March to get those new tires, you're going to be able to pay for it in cash. You're not going to have to put it on a tire card. There's so many, the tire companies offer tire cards here now. You're not going to have to do that. You're going to pay for it in cash. You're going to drive out of there. You have your new tires. You are not going to owe another payment on them for however long to come, right? Like, how much peace is that going to give you? Okay, and then after we put up the 2 walls, remember, we're keeping this super simple. So you got your giving wall, you got your savings wall. This was more clear. I should have put this on the last one. Starter, emergency fund, sinking funds. Okay. After the 2 walls, you're going to put your roof on the house. And the roof for us, I want y'all to think about, is spending. And this is an area where there is so much extra money to be found in spending, right? We have so many leaks in our roofs. Okay. Check your auto subscriptions, what's being auto drafted from your account. It's possible you're paying for things, probably quite a few things that you didn't even know about. And that's part of the reason your money is disappearing. And most of us know where we tend to overspend money the most and where we feel like we really need to rein it in. That can be a leak. That doesn't mean you don't ever spend there, right? But how are you going to minimize that, right? Or how are you going to do it within boundaries so that it doesn't pull away from your giving and your saving and your debt payoff, right? So this is a huge area. Check your roof. Okay. You want to check your roof for those leaks and plug those. Okay. And again, I can go way into more detail on this, but for now, I'm trying to give you all the main overview. So also within our spending, that is where your debt payoff comes in. Okay. So you have your giving in place, you have your savings in place. As you manage your spending, you're going to free up more income. That is the money you use to pay off your debt. Okay. And that's where I'm going to stop today. I talk later on as people get past this step, especially my clients. After that, you get to start decorating, right? You get to go back inside the house. You get to paint the walls. You get to put the furniture in. You get to put all those things in. I mean, this is where it gets fun. You might be saving for a down payment for a house. You might be paying off your house. You might be starting to invest, putting money in retirement, putting money in your kids' college fund, like all of those fun things get to start happening, giving way beyond your tithe. That's a huge one. All those things get to happen after you get past this step. Okay. But for now, we're going to end that here. I just wanted y'all to have that as a visual. Is that helpful for anybody? Does that help take the scariness out of budgeting and help you kind of, especially for those of you who are visual, that just, it doesn't make sense for you to go down the list and put your numbers. Hopefully this will make it easier for you to think through that. Yay, good, I'm glad. Okay, so here's the simple truth, okay? You won't have any idea how much debt you can pay off and still make sure that your household is taken care of if you don't use a spending plan. Okay, I have so often like, oh, I got paid this week, that let's put, I don't know, $500, $1,000, whatever toward this debt. And then guess what happens? Just a couple weeks later, you will end up needing to use debt again. Right? Because you didn't know, like you weren't looking ahead. You weren't building that tower and you weren't counting the cost before building the tower, right? So that's why it's so important. All right, so once these 4 keys are in place, then and only then do you begin making extra payments on debt. So number 1, decide you're done with debt. So many of you gave me a 10 or a 10 million billion, whatever. So great job on that. And if you're not at a 10 yet, we're going to work to get you there. Okay. Number 2 is your starter emergency fund. Number 3 is your short-term savings. Number 4 is your prayed over intentional spending plan. So which one of these, or is it more than one of these that you're currently missing?